This is Hotline to the 108th Assembly District. Each week at this time, Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin uses this public service forum to report to his constituents in Albany, Rensselaer, Columbia, and Greene counties. I'm Ted Flynn. We have a number of things to get to. Assemblyman McLaughlin, nice to see you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
Let's talk about Medicaid reform. The Medicaid redesign team came up with its recommendations to save, I guess, under $1 billion this year, just under $1 billion, and nearly $3 billion next year.
Yeah.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they came up short, as my my estimation. The governor asked for a lot more than that, and the one thing that jumped out at me was the some of it's based on tort reform, which we've never seen here in Albany. So $600 million of this is based on what might be fictitious tort reform, and we haven't seen that here coming out of the Assembly. That's for sure. Yeah. So this may be an unachievable goal, which is unfortunate. And also, what really got my eye was $80 million in fraud that they're trying to reclaim. Well, this should be about $80 million a week, not $80 million a year.
Thing,
yeah, it's ridiculous. We know there's $6 billion a year in waste, fraud, and abuse, and for them to come up with a figure of $80 million, I think, was pretty anemic.
You know, it's a huge program, as everyone knows. It's a $52 billion, $53 billion by some accounts. It's $1 billion a week.
$1 billion a week. That's right. For 19 million people, it is incredible.
And we spend more than twice the national average.
Right, and more than Florida and Texas combined. And Florida has roughly the same amount of people. So the way I would kind of go after this is we need to start looking at the optional part of Medicaid that we're paying for. We need to really start looking at some of the abuses that go on. I mean, we hear story after story of people taking 30, 40 ambulance rides a year. I mean, there's no way that you're still upright on this planet and you need 30 to 40 ambulance rides a year. There's no way. So, and the abuse that goes on there is unbelievable. Yeah. So I think we should be exploring things like maybe you get one free one a year or something, and then there's a copay. It doesn't need to be an enormous copay, but there has to be some skin in the game. Maybe it's $25 or $50. There has to be something to make people think, do I really need this? Because when I hear firefighters telling me that they're getting calls for ambulances because someone has a sore toe, well, that's abuse.
That's right.
That is abuse. Take a cab. You know, so that to me is unbelievable. And you're really putting other people at risk that may be having a heart attack, and the ambulance is outrunning you down to Albany Med because you have a sore toe.
That's the healthcare system in the larger discussion. That there's always that perception that someone else is paying for it, so you're going to use the system as much as you can.
Absolutely. If you give somebody something for free, they tend not to value it quite as much, and they tend to it tends to get abused a lot more, I think.
Let's talk about possible state workforce reductions.
Yeah,
big issue. 9,800 is the target. Is there a way to go about this? I mean,
yeah, I believe there is.
Subject, obviously.
Well, it is, and especially here in the Capital District where we have such a large amount of state employees. So a bulk of that 9,800 will impact us right here in the Capital District very heavily. Bad for our economy. It's certainly bad for the people that are going to lose their jobs. And you'll never hear me screaming to lay off people because I've been through it myself as an airline pilot. It isn't fun to lose your job.
No.
And to lay people off that are, like a lot of people living paycheck to paycheck, doesn't do us any good. We need to shrink the state government, whatever the number, maybe it's 10, 20%, whatever the number is to get this place in order. But I believe we need to do it from top down. Retirements, attrition, get rid of some of the consultants, get rid of the multiple deputy commissioners that we have at most of these agencies, and leave the people that are working and living paycheck to paycheck, leave them alone, because it's really going to hurt us here in the Capital District. So I'm not a guy that will be out there saying that we need to be laying people off, certainly not the people that are kind of paycheck to paycheck.
Yeah, and that's almost half of New Yorkers.
Absolutely.
Came out a report last year, live paycheck to paycheck. You're speaking to one of them.
Yeah, well, me too. I mean, I don't have any huge, I have some retirement savings, but we're not, living high out the hog, that's for sure. I mean, we're like a typical middle-class family. Sometimes there's too much month at the end of the money.
Haven't heard it put that way, but so if you reduce the redundancies, that should maybe take care of a large part of the problem.
Oh, absolutely. And we've got an aging workforce out there. There's a lot of folks that are ready to go. If we can get an early retirement incentive in place again, we could start to get some of the folks off from the top of the list that are kind of getting ready to go anyway. So I'd love to see that accelerated a little bit if possible. Leave the people that are just getting going in the middle of their career, or maybe they're just getting going in their career. We can't afford to lay them off because we've done such a bad job of helping the private sector around here. We're the least friendly state to do business in. There really hasn't been any other place to work but the government. The private sector is struggling along, so there's no place for them to go if we lay them off.
All right. This has been Hotline to the 108th Assembly District. Assemblyman Steve McLaughlin works for you. Let him know what's on your mind, and you can do that by writing him at 1654 Columbia Turnpike, Castleton 12033.